Today's Talk About It Tuesday question is: we're about to start a new year. I didn't reach all of my financial goals for last year, but I want to plan better for next year. Where do I start? Well, I must say that you're already ahead of 90% of people because most people have no goals at all. And the people who do have goals, 90% of them don't have a realistic plan to achieve those goals. So you're already way ahead of the game. So let's try to break it down. You cannot go, especially if you didn't reach goals for last year, you cannot go into next year without first reviewing what you did last year. Whether you had a plan or not, you need to review what you did and what outcomes you achieved. And when I say outcomes, it could be that you made no money. That is an outcome. So let's go back and look at the fundamentals first. Did you address debt? All right. Did you have a plan to reduce debt? Did your debt increase? If your debt did increase, by how much and why? And is it manageable? And if your debt decreased, can you keep that going, or can you increase debt reduction for next year? The next thing you should look at is emergency fund, right? Did you have an adequate enough emergency fund for last year? Did you have to dip into the emergency fund? If you did not build an emergency fund, it is critical to get on that as a priority for your goals for next year. Then let's look at your investments. Did your investments yield you the return that you were looking for? Why and why not? Are those investments still relevant for the coming year? And how do we know, right? If it's relevant or not. If it was interest based, meaning you had CDs or money market accounts or high interest savings accounts, you will not be getting offered the same amount on those next year as you did last year because interest rates are coming down. We also know that as interest rates come down, then the stock market goes up. So maybe you should weight more heavily an index fund or stocks. Maybe because interest rates are coming down, it might offer an avenue next year for you to get into real estate at a better price. So you have to look at investments from last year and see what investments did well that you should carry over, and then what things won't be good next year. I think you should look at did you stick to your budget? How disciplined were you in sticking to a budget? Did you even have a budget, right? So if you didn't have a budget, you have no idea where your money went. If you did have a budget, were you disciplined and did you stick to it? Did your income change? Did your expenses change? And how did you adjust your budget accordingly? Or how will you adjust your budget for next year? So those are some of the fundamentals that you should review from last year, see how well you did, see what easily just carries over, and what things need to be modified for next year. Once you identify the things that you did well, pat yourself on the back, celebrate those things. When you identify the things you didn't do well, learn from it, right? Take it as a lesson. Don't beat yourself up. That's an opportunity for you to learn and grow. So, how do we look forward to planning for next year? Well, an easy way to create a plan is that you can use the acronym SMART. SMART. So the S means you should be very specific. Like I ask people, what's your goal for next year? I want to make more money than I did last year. Okay, so if you make 10 cents more than you reached your goal, are you okay with that? No, I'm not okay with that. Then you have to be very specific. Because if you're not specific, you can't create steps to achieve that, right? So if you said, I want to increase my savings by $10,000, then that means, okay, how do we achieve that? Perhaps I have to increase my income. So maybe I find a new income source, or I have to reduce my spending significantly, or a combination of both so that I have $10,000 more next year than I did last year. So being very specific is crucial in order to create a very specific plan to achieve your desired outcome. It should be measurable, meaning, like I said, 10,000 is measurable, right? You know whether or not you hit your goal. You could say, I'm going to increase the amount of my income that I put into my investments by 15%. That's measurable, right? You can measure that. So very specific, very measurable, um, achievable. I've had people, I want to be financially free by next year. Okay, but you're so deep in a hole, how could you be financially free by next year? It's just not achievable. Or I've had people say, I want to make $1 million in 5 years. Okay, not to say it's impossible, but based on where you are and what you know and the resources you have, 5 years is not a lot of time to reach that magic number. So you should create realistic, achievable goals so you don't set yourself up for failure and then end up quitting because of that. Um, I think, yeah, achievable that's a big one. I don't know why people just have these outrageous ideas. I guess you just don't know what it takes sometimes. Um, Relevant is the R, right? So even if you say, I want to make $1 million, for what? You want to make $1 million for what, right? So it should be relevant. Um, I want to save the extra $10,000 because I want to use that for a down payment to buy this property that I want for next year so that I can get positive cash flow from passive income streams. Oh, that's relevant. That's a reason to put away $10,000, not just to have $10,000 to have $10,000. Um, so that's the R. And then the T is time bound. Put a time frame, a realistic time frame on the goal, right? And so if 10,000 is not achievable by 2025, then what's achievable by throughout 2025, right? So if you know based on what you are capable of doing, $10,000 will take you 2 years, then just tie it to 2 years, right? So everything should be within a realistic time frame as well. So how do you achieve these things or create the plan if you really don't know? Now is the time when you should be tapping into your resources, your financial coach, financial strategist. Time to make that appointment, right? I do one-on-ones. Time to make that appointment and set up a one-on-one consultation so that you know you have a realistic set of goals and plans and strategies based on exactly where you are and exactly where you want to go. You should also set yourself up for success by talking to your tax strategist and see the implications for making more money or the implications for dealing with different types of income like investment income and rental income and things like that. So you should definitely have a meeting with your tax strategist as well. But don't wait, right? Before you know it, will be 2, 3, 4, 5 months in and you'll have already lost that valuable time. So immediately get on it. You know, if you can't create a financial plan for yourself, tap into your resources and tap into the experts around you. But I'd love to hear how you're planning for next year, what some of your goals are. But please like, share, subscribe. And this is the last video for 2024. So Happy New Year, everybody. And I'll see you in 2025.